Hi, Phil. You say you don't know much about the economy, and I have a degree in economics, so I'm going to explain to you what you need to know, or at least what I think about the bailout, okay? It's Friday now, it did just pass, and the markets did not fall off the end of a cliff. But let's talk about why we went ahead and did this bailout / rescue, okay? Got to think of it like this. You've sliced an artery in your leg. You are bleeding profusely. You are spurting blood everywhere that you look. And you can't even tell. No one can look at your leg and be able to even tell if that artery can be repaired because you're just bleeding so terribly. The first thing you got to do is get a tourniquet, and you got to put it above that artery, and you got to squeeze it off really, really tight until it stops bleeding before anybody can even look at the slice in your artery to see if it can be repaired. That bailout bill is a tourniquet. It is designed to stop the bleeding. What we have been bleeding, kind of in a reverse kind of way, is, and this is going to take some mental gymnastics, but what we've been bleeding really is money. So we've invested in all these bad mortgages. We've invested in, allowing people to finance 100% of a home or 100% of a business that they're starting. That isn't necessarily very sound. And we're allowing them to borrow the absolute maximum amount of money that anyone could reasonably conceive of lending these people, and then we've tacked another 50 to 100% on top of that. So we're letting them borrow way too much money. They're buying at the top of the market, and what happens is the housing market, because we've been bumping it up with everybody buying all these houses for so long, driving the price up. I remember a time when my neighborhood, and I live in a nice neighborhood, people would sell their homes for above what they were going to ask before they listed it, okay? I remember that. That was only a couple of years ago. But so here's this huge housing bubble being created, and when that bubble burst and people's housing prices went back not just to where they had been before all the price inflation started, but to even lower than that, kind of even being undervalued, suddenly they're holding a mortgage for $500,000 on a home that they could only sell for $300,000 in profit. So they're basically on their head in their mortgage to the tune of $200,000. And what that does, they're passing this around like it's a hot potato between all these banking industries, getting fees. They're earning fees. You're paying closing costs. They're making money. Rich guys are getting richer. Everything's just going on and on and on until the last guy with the potato at the end of the party, he's holding it in his hands, burning the absolute ever-loving crap out of his hands, because now he can't sell this thing because it's not worth what he needs to get for it, as it has been passed around. It's just a little piece of paper. It's a little piece of paper mortgage, right, which has someone's home that has a person attached to it, but it's really just a piece of paper. And so those guys in the banks, they look and they go, oh my God, I'm holding all this paper that I can't sell anymore, that isn't worth anything, isn't worth nearly what I paid for it, and now I don't even think the people who are paying on it are going to be able to pay it off. And so they're like, Jesus Christ, So they stop spending money. They do what, like, if I didn't have a job or if I was worried about my job or anything like that, I'd stop spending on things that I didn't need. That's what the banks did. They basically stopped or started to make it very difficult for people to borrow money. And people means everybody, including you, okay? They're not lending money to people to buy cars, okay? So if you can't go out and get a loan and you can't buy a car, then think about you times however many million of you there are that are applying for car loans and not getting them, and then think about how many millions of cars are not getting sold, how many people who build those cars who are now not doing as much work as they would have before, how many car companies are not getting money to make their payroll and to pay their benefits, and it just becomes this whole huge thing. People can't get mortgages. Businesses that take standard business loans throughout the year, nice lines of credits that they always pay back. There are people who are good risks with good businesses who have always paid their loans back. Suddenly they can't get a loan to make their payroll, and they got to lay people off. Because everybody's getting laid off, those people who have been laid off turn around and try and go and get a job. They can't get a job because nobody's hiring, because nobody can get any money. Enter the bailout. Because by this time, the math has stopped mattering, okay? It used to be about math, and it used to be about balance sheets and money, and whether you had money or whether you didn't have money, but it stopped being about the math, because everybody is in like this huge panic, right? And so people are panicking, they're selling stock, they're buying stock, the market's going down 780 points, it's coming back 465 points, it's just like schizophrenia. And so everyone starts thinking the bailout will save us, the bailout will save us. And so pretty soon, everybody has convinced themselves that only the bailout is going to save us, that only taking this bad debt off of the books of these financial institutions, and the reason why the government's going to do that is because they're the only ones in theory here who can hold it for long enough to where what they paid for it is what it actually comes back up to being worth. So that's the idea behind the bailout. Buy the bad assets, hold on to them for long enough, however long that may be, years at the least, until it comes back up to being worth what we paid for it, okay? And then we sell it. If we're lucky, the government sells it at a profit, and then that profit money goes right back into reducing the national debt. It says that in the legislation. What it does in the meantime, though, is it takes that bad debt that has caused banks to hold on to their money like little misers and not lend it to people. It causes them to go, whew, man, did we screw up, and thank God for the government coming in and bailing us out, and now we don't have to worry about covering all this bad debt and making our own payroll so we can lend money to people again so we can keep the economy going. That's all in theory. But that sucker has passed, and now we'll see how it all plays out. But you said that you didn't understand the economy, so I just gave you what hopefully was under 10 minutes worth of a crash course in bailout economics. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.